Evening everybody, Rich here, back for another video for the Diecast F1 review. Here today is the Mercedes F1 W06 Hybrid from 2016. That's a mouthful, isn't it? And it's a Bburargo model, and not a new release though, it's one that's been out a few months now. It's been out since January, I think. I picked this up brand new, and I thought about doing a review, but never got around to it. So here it is today. And not a bad model, I must say, but a bit about the car anyway. Now, we're all familiar with 2016 and how, well, light just fell over, sorry. Yeah, we all remember 2016, the season which, again, Mercedes won pretty much everything, and pretty much ruined it for every Formula One fan out there. These rules are not really working, are they? And I think 2017, although the cars look better, they're faster, it's not really working, is it? The sport is going through... don't really know what to call it. It's not as exciting. It's not. I don't know really what to call it. I mean, the last two races I haven't even bothered watching because they've been so dull. Or the sport's become so dull. But anyway, 2016 is pretty much the beginning. Well, not the beginning of that, but the middle of that. Yeah, Mercedes winning pretty much all but two races that year, yeah, last year, wasn't it? Yeah, all but two races. I think it was Danny Ricciardo and Max Verstappen who won the other two races that Mercedes didn't win, the Malaysian Grand Prix for Danny Ricciardo and the Spanish Grand Prix for Max Verstappen, but they're both sort of default wins anyway. Hamilton retiring from the lead in Malaysia and Mercedes running into each other at the Spanish Grand Prix, which you'll remember that. But yeah, there's not really much to talk about in this season. The car was miles quicker than anybody else. Ferrari at the time seemed, at the beginning of the season seemed to be on even terms, but that all came to nothing in the end, and Ferrari just sort of dropped off, and it was a very frustrating season for them. Red Bull were just sort of the also-rans, but they picked up the wins where others couldn't, and ultimately finished second. But enough about Red Bull, on to the Mercedes, which I've been talking about anyway, but... yeah, as I say, 2016, like 2015 and 2014 in some respect. I think 2014 was definitely the better season, because it was sort of the beginning of the rivalry between Hamilton and Rosberg, and it was sort of the unknown, really. It was all new, and you know, we had Williams and Red Bull fighting for second. Ferrari just fell back, and Mercedes were free to do what they want. 2015 was thought would be a bit different, but it turned out it would not be. And it's the same with 2016. 2017 is a little bit better, but we'll have to wait and see when the season goes down, whether it goes down to the wire or not. But enough about 2016. The car itself, very similar to the 2015 car, which in terms probably just an evolution, and an evolution of the 2014 car. The only difference on a first glance approach is sort of the nose cone. But the car has developed all through the season. And I think, if I just look at the box, I don't think this model is a race-specific version. I think it is just a bog standard version, yeah. So, but yeah, it's a Bburargo model. If we move on to the model as we speak, like Mini Champs, they produced a Mercedes as well, but the Mini Champs would be about £1 million rather than what I paid for this one. Like the Bburargo Ferrari I reviewed about 2 years ago now, the 2015 car. It is sort of a breath of fresh air, really. It's still, I mean, it's not as quality as Mini Champs and was it BBR and Auto Art, and I can't remember who else is. I think it's Look Smart as well. They're also in the diecast range now, but the prices are just ridiculous now. And I said at the time when I reviewed that Ferrari 2 years ago that things are on the change for, you know, Ferrari fans and things like that, because the prices that Bburargo charge are very decent. I mean, if you go onto CK Models, their shop, you can pick this model up now for £27 or about €32, and that is an absolute bargain for a 2016 car. Whether it be, you know, it's Bburargo, but it's sort of in the quality range of Mattel. You don't expect to have the fancy paint and rough tyres that Mini Champs produce, but detail-wise, there's not a huge amount of difference. And I think the the Mini Champs models are all resin now. So there we go. And I think also with Mini Champs they don't release their models in clear boxes anymore. I think they're all closed boxes now, so which is another disappointment, but hey, there we go. But onto the model itself. We'll get the camera up, and I do apologise for the lack of sunlight. It is September in the United Kingdom. If we look out the window, it is cloudy and raining, as you'd expect. But onto the car itself. Have a quick look around now. Well, the major fault with this car is, and I will point it out straight away, if I just lean it up that way, you can see that the steering rod is a bit too long and a bit too flexy. That's really the only issue I have with it. You can see it's, if I just hold the front wheel, you can see it's very floppy. So that's really the only issue I have with this model. The rest of it is pretty solid. And the front wing is pretty solid. The rear wing is, well, the rear wing won't move at all. That's pretty solid. And the car is made out of metal. I think it's metal. Quite tough. Got a nice glossy carbon fibre effect floor to the car, and yeah, it's not too bad. There is another issue, very minor really, but if it's the area around the suspensions, you can see there. Whereas the paintwork would go sort of with the flow of the chassis, you got the suspension components built in there. They haven't painted it black. Where the suspension connects to the chassis, you can see under there it's not been painted. If I get my screwdriver, that'll probably point out a bit better. But you can see anyway. You can see the join line around the suspension there. They haven't painted that to the colour of the car. You know, the glossy silver and the turquoise stripe there. But it's not a big issue there. It's just where the bottom half of the car sits with the top half. You can see underneath. If I lean it up, so you got some components underneath. You got some aerodynamic pieces, a bit of carbon fibre detailing. It's not decal, it's actually moulded plastic, the carbon fibre, so that's why the sound. So that's that. Look along the plank. Not much detailing or paint to the plank, but not a big issue. Got around the diffuser as well. Good bit of aerodynamic detailing around the floor. Of course you've got the Bburargo logo there and the F1 W07 Hybrid. It is the W07, I thought it was the W06. Is it W06? Or is it W07? It's a W07, isn't it? I'm looking at the box, yeah. Apologies there. I look at the rear diffuser there. And around the floor, we've got the 118 badge as well, so there we go. But that's the floor of the car. Have a quick look around the back, so we'll do a quick pivot around. And you can see all the detailing around there. The rear crash structure, got the exhaust pipe, which is a bit blingy, but not an issue. Bit of dust on the tyres, because I have had this on display, but just taking it out of the box again for the first time in a few months. The detailing at the side. There are some panel gaps in the moulding. I'll just get the car around. That way you can see the big panel lines. Same with the 05 Ferrari, I mean, you got the big panel line down the side there, and the gap along the rear bodywork there, and also around the suspension around the rear. But it's not a big issue. It's not as bold as what it was on the Ferrari, because it's a darker colour. You got the fin there, you got some nice detailing of the decals on the back. Got the vents in the rear wing, which are not actually vents, they're just sort of indented plastic. Whereas I think on Mini Champs they're more pronounced. Bit of basic detailing around the base of the rear wing. Sort of an early season spec, I think, because later in the season the rear wing would go through an overhaul. Got a Nico Rosberg figure in there. I didn't point out that it is actually Nico Rosberg in the car. That's something I forgot to mention. But I thought I'd go for the Rosberg version, as he is the world champion. And number 6 on the front there. Slip down the nose. You've got the big broad front wing there. And the flexibility of it is not as flexy as the Ferrari, but it's a little bit of flex there, but still pretty tough. And of course you've got the wobbly suspension. That's really the only issue. I mean, with what Bburargo have done, they've taken the push rods, the diagonal section of the suspension, and turned them into the actual tie rods, the steering rack. So that's the issue with that. But it's a bit too flexy, so you might want to cut it and stretch it, or cut it and shorten it. But if you're a modder, then you can probably do a decent job with it. But as I say, it's not bad for the price. I mean, I just said I picked this up at the time. I mean, I bought this on the day of release, because I was sort of surprised when this came out, because I haven't been sort of keeping up with the news of diecast, so I was quite surprised when I saw this out online. So I thought I'd pick it up. And I did pay £50 for it on the day of release. But if you go to CK Models, like I explained earlier, You can pick this up for sort of €32, £26, not too bad, £27, something like that. And that's for both versions as well. I think that's for Hamilton and the Rosberg version. So you got yourself quite a good deal there, and it sort of wipes it in the face of the mini champs version. I mean, if you're going for quality and you've got a big bank balance, then go for the mini champs one. But as I'm a collector on a basic budget, as a collector, I collect anything really. If I'm going to afford it, I'll buy it. I mean, the people have been asking me, why do I collect models with bits missing? Why not? I don't like to see a decent model, even though it's got a wing mirror missing or something like that. I don't like to see a model being thrown away and smashed up and things like that. I do like to salvage these sort of things, and sometimes I can pick up models which have spare parts. They can be used as spare parts. I won't break them up and throw them away. I just break them down and use them as a parts shop. I mean, I won't throw them out. I mean, wasteful. And some of these models are really rare. This one isn't though, hence why it's so cheap. And that is the I'll just read the name on the box. It's the Mercedes F1 W07 Hybrid. Whereas I read it on the I was actually reading on the Wikipedia page, it says the F106, but I'm reading the wrong page obviously, because they all look the bloody same, these Mercedes. I mean, the 04 one had a different, no, the 14 version, sorry, had a different nose, but the 15 and the 16 versions are virtually identical. Anyway, I'll put the car to one side a minute, and then we'll dig out the box. And the box is like you expect with a normal Bburargo model. I've got the lid closed. I haven't got the base in there, but I'll go around the box anyway. You've got the me in the panel there. Hello. You got the Nico Rosberg on the side there. Got Mercedes badge down there, and the Bburargo badge up there. Front panel, you got the open clear box, as you expect. You got the Mercedes at the bottom there, the name that I should have read out at the beginning. So you got the Mercedes badge down there, and the race things on the box there. It's all basic stuff. And of course you've got around the other side with Nico Rosberg again. Around the back, Nico Rosberg again, and a load of legal gumph. And on the bottom, if I can lift it up, there's more legal gumph. So that's the box. And you got inside you got the base, which is basically that. It's a plastic base with a little badge down there. Mercedes telling you what it is. Should have read that at the beginning. And also attached to the base inside the box is just a bit of cardboard. And that's that with Nico Rosberg on it. So you'll never forget who drives the car. Get the car back. There we go. And yeah, so like I say, you won't forget who drove the car by looking at the box. And I do apologise for the light, but if I just dig out my torch, which fell over at the beginning, we can have a quick look over again. So yeah, that's my phone going off. We got the detailing there, not a bad model. But that is the Bburargo F1 W07 Hybrid. I can't remember what it's called because I've just thrown the box away. But that is the 2016 Bburargo Mercedes, and I have to say it's definitely one to get. If you're a collector like me, you'd buy anything and stuff mini champs, because diecast is going through one of those sort of turmoil times. I mean, new releases this year, I mean 2017 models are sort of in the £200 to £250 range, and I do not want to pay that for anything really, just for a car that's going to sit on the mantelpiece. So for a tenth of that you can buy a Bburargo model. Not quite the quality, but it's sort of in there with the Mattel models, and or the Mattel models of the past, and definitely one to get. So I'd recommend it, whether you're a Hamilton or a Rosberg fan, or get both. You buy two, you still have change out of 100. You can buy four pretty much for £100. So go for it. But that's my advice, and that's what my opinion anyway. So we'll have one more quick look at the front wings. I didn't really look at that. So we've got the detailing there, sort of moulded panels into one front wing, so there's no gaps between the flaps on the front wing, but it's detailed nonetheless. But that's the Mercedes, can't remember what it's called, but that is it. So that is the Mercedes, and this is Rich signing off, logging off and disappearing, and I shall return with another review. So bye for now.